live. Newsfirst, face to face.
Hello there and welcome to tonight's edition of Face to Face, coming to you from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. Now, the host for this evening, I'm Rochelle Tumodra, and joining me this evening is Professor Upali Pannilage, Executive Committee Member of the National People's Power. Welcome to the show, Professor.
Good evening, sir.
To start things off with, now there have been various topics that have been subject to discussion in Sri Lanka now, given the issues in law and the economic crisis, IMF, debt restructuring. Now, among all these topics, a very important topic is the transportation system, because an effective transportation system is vital to any economy in any country. Now, in Sri Lanka, also, we have this transportation system, and effective and efficient transportation system does help a person go from A to B, and on the other side also improve productivity. But unfortunately, owing to Sri Lanka's poor transportation system, many people have selected private vehicles. Now, even though this might be efficient from their end, on the other hand, this has caused another major issue, which is the traffic congestion in the country. Now, as the National People's Power, what is your plan in order to effectively address this issue?
Yeah, well, let us start with basically, because when you talk about the transport sector, that is one of the areas that are very most important areas, but it has not brought into the discussion as adequately. So when we talk about transport, actually there are the various aspects of transport, and just a brief, there are the land transport, there are the aerial transport, and there are the waterway transport. So let's focus on the basically about land transport in this discussion. When we talk about land transport, there are the two aspects, the road transport, of course, there are the buses, the cars, and all the vehicles, and then the railway system, where mainly we have normal railway system, but in other countries, especially developed countries, there are a lot of the developed or more modernized system like LRTs, monorails, and some metro system. So but in Sri Lanka, as you very correctly pointed out, since long we have been promoting private vehicles opposed to public transport system. So as a result, if we go back to in 1950s, in 1952, actually 58, actually the public transport contribution was around 98%, whereas the private transport contribution was 2%. Now we have declined the public transport the contribution in the country. Now it has become around 45%, and the people use more and more cars and other private vehicles. Now its share has become around 55%. So this led to kind of the traffic congestion in main cities like Colombo. But we cannot talk about transport in isolation, because the transport issues in urban areas are completely different to the transport issues in rural areas. Still a large portion of our communities are living in rural areas, sizably is around 70%. So let's talk both urban transportation as well as the rural transportation as well.
Yes, so Professor, do you think now the road system in the country, now even today, if I'm not mistaken, a Company flyover was also declared open by the President today, and if I'm not mistaken, 5.2 billion rupees were invested into this project as well. So do you think now this road system in the country does cater to this need of having efficient public transport, and what do you think of Sri Lanka's road network?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Thank you for that question. If we consider about our road network, actually we have fairly a good road network. So we have around 120,000 road network in Sri Lanka. But the problem is now out of this 120,000, the Highways Ministry or the Road Development Authority maintain only around 12,600 kilometers of road. And there are about almost 18,000 road network which comes under the provincial councils or provincial road development authorities. So that left more than 88,700 odd road network which comes under mainly local authorities like rural councils, Pradeshi Sabhas. So what our main emphasis should be on the the rural road network. So now especially during last 10 to 15 years, particularly after 2010, our main emphasis was on the road sector. So as you said, there are a lot of flyovers, and we put up highways. The highways in the sense that there are expressways. There are about 346 kilometers of express. We have 4 expressways. So sizable, the debit of our country. So we know that in 2022, and we declared as the default or the the bankrupt country. So that is mainly due to our foreign debit. So out of around 42 million US dollar to 42 billion US dollar, the foreign debits, average of 20 to 25% comes from the road sector. So we have good road network. We are putting the very nice highways, and and the expressways are necessary. I am not saying that we don't need, but the question is whether we need or whether that is our priority. So we need to prioritize what is necessary for the country based on our economic condition. So if we have money and we need flyovers, we can put nice expressways all over the country. But we had to borrow money from outside and then put on a road, and that has led to the huge economic crisis in the country. So road network is necessary again, but improving road network is not going to solve the transport issues of the country.
Definitely. Now, speaking of what we need for something that we emphasized, now since the vehicle import ban that was imposed in 2020, only vehicles of special circumstances was allowed. Now with this, people have shifted towards using electronic vehicles. Now, do you think, Professor, the use of electronic vehicles will cater to this problem, and will that help solve this issue that we are currently facing?
Yeah, that could be one of the solutions in long run, but you know that as a result of this vehicle-centered, I would say it's a vehicle-centered transport policy that has been implemented since long in the country. So now we have around 8.4 million motorized vehicle in the country, and there are about 1.7 million bicycles which are not counted. Out of that 8.4 million motorized vehicles, 4.4 million are motorcycles. So now it's left around 4 million motorized vehicle, cars, buses, vans, kind of thing. So that majority of them they use it's not the electrified or hybrid vehicles. Majority of them are on diesel or petrol. So annually we spend around 5 billion US dollar for the import of fuel. And now it's due to this economic crisis and due to the various reasons, now the fuel demand has been reduced. But if we go in the normal situation, we have to spend around 5-6 billion US dollars per annum for fuel import. So out of that, around 70%, just say around 3.5 billion US dollar we need annually for fuel import. So just to feed our vehicle feed. So that is also unbearable. But there are no other options. So the only option is going for the the electrified vehicles and the hybrid vehicles. But there again, there are limitations on the charging and how in our energy sector, and it's also consume quite a lot of the fossil fuel, and it's opposed to the renewable energy now. So, but even in our NPP transport policy, we are thinking about electrifying the buses railways, as well as when it's time to come for import, to consider on the hybrid and electrified vehicle. That's one of the options we have at the moment. Otherwise, we can't survive in short term. Maybe in long run, when the economy is established, we can think about other alternatives. That's one of the options, definitely, yes.
Yes, so speaking of it being another option, and you're all actually thinking about more of these electronic vehicles now, how does the charging network in Sri Lanka be developed in order to cater this need of having more electronic vehicles in the country?
Yeah, that's one of the issues. Actually, although the electric vehicles were brought to the country, there were no the established charging network in the country. So we need to think about it. And in our plans, because in short term, actually even now it's the import has been banned, and very few vehicles brings to the country. So slowly we can't continue on this because people need vehicle. So we have to think about it with the the economic establishment, and then we have thought about when we import electric vehicles, and we need to establish a very good network of the charging system throughout the country, and there are the cost aspect for it. Even we they generate electricity from fuel. For example, for diesel. So now in public transport, for example, buses normally consume 4 liters of fuel per kilometers. So whereas we can generate around 10 units of the electricity generation for 10 units from 1 liter of diesel. So still, still if we use 100% diesel, electric vehicles are more cheap, and that is why we are thinking of slowly electrifying the whole, especially the public transport first, and then go into the private vehicles. The charging network definitely is an area we have thought about, and we have separate energy policy where we have develop and we have formulated some aspect of how we connect both transport and energy system in the country.
Certainly. Now, Professor pointed out that using electric vehicles can be a good cost-effective method. But then again, now shifting your attention to the role of energy in this topic of discussion. Now, if we are to shift the use of electric vehicles, even for the public transportation, it can also incur a high cost with regard to energy. How can we cater this, Professor?
Yeah, that is anyway an issue in the country because we can't now depend on renewable energy like hydro or wind. But there is a huge potential both wind and solar. Right, and in our energy policy, and we have thought about the more going for more renewable sources of energy like solar and wind. Right, and if we if we are able to generate enough energy from wind and solar, definitely that will be a very good solution for this energy crisis. And now we know that electricity bill has been increased. It has been a huge burden to the the normal household. So it's mainly because of we generate large portion of energy, electricity from fossil fuel. When around the 30 years back, we generate around 80% from hydropower, but so gradually the energy need was increased, and we couldn't manage from our available sources. We know now there are some discussion about wind energy generation and solar power generation. Considering the situation of the country, definitely in our energy policy, we have thought of going for renewable sources, and that will solve at least in long run, not in short run, definitely long run, the issue of this energy.
So speaking of renewable sources now, even to implement things like the solar system, that is also going to impose another cost. So do you think that replacing the cost of electricity to that will be an effective solution?
Definitely solar and wind. Of course, hydro, we have tapped almost 90% of hydro. Otherwise, hydro is the very good option. So definitely, we don't have any other option. We have to go for renewable sources. Solar, wind, and hydro are the most cost-effective option. Even in, for example, if we go think about the countries like Sweden and Netherlands, even in our neighbor India, they are generating quite a number of megawatts, gigawatts from wind and solar. So definitely there is a cost involved in that. We have to invest on this. There is we cannot depend on fossil fuel. And they are also declining, and we cannot. We have to spend a lot of foreign money for import of fuel, and in long run that cannot be. Depend on, and that definitely the only I would say only option is going for renewable sources.
So Professor, now we spoke about a lot of solutions to this problem. Now what is the natural people's power bringing in to solve this problem?
Yeah, actually that is a good question, and I think that everyone is asking for. So we have very clearly identified the issues, and we have analyzed the issues, and we have come up with a very feasible solution for that. So we have to understand the current situation of the country. In our transport policy, mainly we promote public transport. So let me quote one very famous person. His name is Enrique Pannilage. I'm not sure I pronounce it well. He's from he was one of the mayor in Bogota. And he once said that we can develop cities that is more friendly to cars, or a city that is more friendly to people. So that is, we cannot have both, he said. So our policy is mainly based on people-centered transport policy. So that is our policy. So people is the center of the policy. So we will go for public transportation option. It doesn't mean that we are not thinking about private vehicles. Private vehicles are there, but public transport is the key. So there we will start with bus traffic transit via the BRT is where the priority bus lanes and other infrastructure are there. And then we have thought about especially for urban areas, transit cities. Like for example, now there is just take in Kottava. Now it's so gradually developing that as a transit city. So in Colombo, we have thought about similar cities in Kadawatha, Moratuwa, now Kottava is there, one Samya Ragamavatala. So those transit cities are the cities that bring people from outside. And those cities have all facilities like parking, the washroom, the shopping center, the other centers. From then transit cities to the main centers, we will implement the bus traffic transit, and for the start with the bus lane, the priority bus lane, and then gradually priority signal lights and the other infrastructure will be developed. And that way we have identified transport is one of the areas that government also need to be invested. Private sector is also there. We have to go for both private and public partnership. So that's our main thing. But not only that, because we are talking about this urban transport, as I mentioned, there are about 70% of people are living in rural areas. We have to think about rural transport as well. So the problem in rural transport is not the rural areas and not the traffic. So they don't have enough buses to the travel. So we have to little bit invest on to provide bus services to the rural areas at first. Then we have to gradually improve our railway system. Currently, our railway system contribute 5% of the total passenger transportation. So our plan is to improve it at least to 10% during next 5 years. Once we form our own government, NPP government. So that way, we will put more emphasis on railway public transport, which is a railway and bus transport. That will definitely help people to efficiently and effectively fulfill their transport need. So when in our plan, basically there are few key aspects, that is the safety and comfortable transport service, and then we have to think about affordability, cost of transport, and then speed is also matter. And then the proximity, the accessibility of the transport service, that if you want to go to a bus stand where you are living in 3-4 kilometers away, so then you will not be encouraged to use public transport. So public transport should be there, it should be accessible, and it should be the most proximity. And then timeliness of that, because we have huge issue of timetables. So we are spending a lot of our time on roads, and sometimes we don't know in what time is the next bus is. So we are going for digitalized app where all the timetables can be easily searched for the passengers and through your mobile phone or a laptop, and then those timetables will be the displays. Main bus stands, railway station, and those are the main aspect of our transport policy. But not only that, we are thinking about one more aspect, that is the diversity of travelers. So we have to think about transport of women, the children, people with disabilities, and if I quote, the one last quote from the United Nations Population Fund study in 2018. So, and they published that report. So, according to that report, 90% of women who they responded to the survey, and 2,500 was the sample, they have experienced some kind of harassment, those women, at least once in their life. So it's 90%. So it's a huge. So then we have to think about this women transport needs, and there should be, in our transport policy, we will we will introduce separate app to complain, as well as there will be a separate unit to act immediately on those aspects.
Yes, I think those are actually very important key factors that Professor Upali pointed out. So with that, we wrap tonight's edition of Face to Face, and thank you very much, Professor Upali, for joining with us this evening. Thank you and good night.
ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ විදිහට අපි ගොඩද
මේ ප්‍රතිපත්ති රාමුවත් මේකත් හිස් වූ රාමුවක්
නායකෙක්ට පුළුවන් අවශ්‍යයි නම් සංවේදීත් වෙලා ඒ වෙලාවෙම තාර්කිකත් වෙන්න
ජානමය හේතුත් බලපාන්න පුළුවන් ද සමහර වෙලාවට මානසික තත්ත්ව වෙනස් වෙන්න
මානසික රෝගයක් 80%ක් ජානගතයි 20%ක් එන්වයරන්මන්ට් එකේ ඉන්නේ
නින්දෙදිත් සිදුවෙන ශ්වසන අපහසුතාවන් පිළිබඳ අපිට වාර්තා වෙනවා මේක ගොරවනකොට වැඩි වෙනවද
නින්දේදී සිදුවන ශ්වසන අවහිරතාවය නැත්නම් මේක හඳුන්වනවා මේ ඔබස්ට්‍රක්ටිව් ස්ලීප් ඇප්නියා කියන තත්ත්වය
ජාතික මෙහෙවර සතියේ දිනවල උදෑසන 11ට